Hello, welcome to another episode of New Gameplay Today. I'm your host, Jeff Cork. Joined today by special guest, Leo Vader.
Thanks for having me. I owe you one.
Yeah, absolutely. It took a little work, but it was worth it. And Matt Miller.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great.
What are we looking at?
This is Into the Breach, the new game from Subset Games, who you may recall created a little game called FTL, Faster Than Light.
I do recall that.
Do you recall how great it was?
I do recall that.
Well, there you go. We're going to skip over the combat simulation and get right into it. How's
Let's do
that
it.
sound?
Yeah.
This is a game they've been working on for a long time over at Subset Games, and I am over the moon for this game, Jeff.
Really?
This is a great game. People who recall FTL, I think, will
Like me.
remember. Like you, Leo.
Thank you.
Will recall its structure of kind of this kind of rogue-lite experience where you are unlocking new ships all the time and progressing through the same kind of procedurally based thing.
Yep.
This uses that same structure, but the actual game itself is a totally different kind of game. So don't expect that it's something just like FTL, but it does have that kind of addictive loop of what that game did so well. And man, it's so much fun. I've played through the game. I'm working on the review right now, and I've played through many playthroughs already. This is actually a new account, so as not to spoil things for anybody who's watching,
Right.
in terms of some of the stuff you can unlock. But it's just a really compelling and interesting tactical game that you'll play again and again and again.
Okay. Now, this is probably heresy to say this. Like, say that there's a hypothetical jerk out here who played FTL and was not into it.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person about this game?
Well, this game, as I said, it doesn't have the same structure. It's not like real-time alien fighting, that kind of thing. This is all grid-based, turn-based sorts of stuff. And so let's just talk about that gameplay and what makes it distinct, and then we'll scale back to talking about the ways that it is similar to FTL.
Okay.
So the grid-based tactical stuff here, you are you're controlling the squad of 3 mechs at any one time, and they have a very particular set of goals on each one of these kind of like micro battles that you get in, and those like tasks that you're trying to do change like a procedurally generated sequence of missions that you go through. There are these different islands that you hop into. You take your mechs down, and you've got to complete a certain sequence of tasks. The fun thing about each turn is that it's almost like a puzzle. You know exactly what's going to happen in each of the different turns that you see ahead. You can see it right now as I'm playing. Each of these like kaiju style monsters shows up, and then they dictate what they're going to do on their turn. You can see where they're going to hit. This guy is going to shoot at this tank, for instance. This person or this enemy I can look at, and I can see exactly what they're doing. It receives by being on the board, this creature gives all the other weird kaiju monsters +1 HP as long as this scion is living.
Okay.
So that's not good. We want to get him off the board.
Right.
But is it more important to get him off the board or to clear this guy who's going to hurt my tank, right? That's the decision you're having to make. You're also constantly looking at your overall power grid, which is right here,
Right.
which independent of your mechs, that's your carryover health between missions. That's the grid for the entire that's for humanity to stay alive, basically, right? And that is brought down when buildings are hurt. So you really don't want buildings to get hurt. So you're kind of juggling these different challenges of not wanting to get your mechs damaged, not wanting your pilots to die, not wanting the buildings to get hit that are going to lower your power grid. And all of that stuff together like sort of factors into to how you're going to proceed. And so there's this really interesting dynamic of that kind of puzzle each round of making sure that nothing bad goes wrong on the next turn.
Okay.
So you can sit there. I mean, I'm not paying a whole lot of attention because I'm talking about it, but when I'm actually playing for real, there's this. I often will sit there and stare at the screen for a good couple of minutes before I make my first move on a turn. On the other hand, if that's not the way that you like to play, you can just totally breeze through it. Although you'd have to be a pretty fast thinker to do well that way.
Okay.
I really like when enemies will telegraph their attacks like that in a strategy game. Slay the Spire does a similar thing, and it makes it a lot more fun strategically.
Absolutely. So we can see here on this mission I'm about to do, this is a procedurally generated mission. I'm choosing which mission I go on. I could choose on, I could go to this one or any of these red spots on this island. And once I finish this island, I'll move on to the next island that I'm trying to save. But I can see what I'm going to be trying to do here. I don't want to kill one of the enemies. There's one particular one I do not want to kill. And I also want to protect the power generator. But on any given mission, you always have the primary goal of don't let humanity die.
Okay.
Don't let these buildings get knocked over, right?
Got it.
So you spawn in, you decide where your dudes are going to go. And then you're off to the races. Now, what makes it an interesting tactical experience is the idea that each move that you make, each one of your mechs has dramatically different things that it's doing in terms of how it pushes enemies and how it damages enemies. So like, just to show you an example, this is an artillery unit, right? So I can aim at this guy down here. This bug has 3 hit points, right? So I can go over here and I can hit him. However, my weapon does not do enough damage to kill him.
Right. Just does one.
Just does one. And what it's going to do is it's going to push all the nearby things away. So I've got a choice right now with my artillery unit. If I want to deal with that problem, I can either do 1 damage, but know that this building's going to get hurt, or I can undo that move, and I'll instead fire here and push him over there. Now when he attacks, he'll hit this tank instead.
Instead of the
building.
Right.
So then it becomes a matter of like, can I handle my tank getting damaged? Hey, he's at full health, so it's probably going to be okay. But I did not do damage to him. Similarly here, I've got this guy. He can come down here, and his attack pushes
into the fire.
Over in that direction. He probably won't push far enough to get into the fire. You see he only pushes 1. But he will push so that attack that you see already telegraphed on this bug will hit the mountain, which is fine.
Yeah.
We don't care about the mountains. They can get totally blown up.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that looks like. So now the attack is still going to happen.
Right.
It's just not going to hit the thing that I'm trying to protect. So in any given turn, you're doing these hard choices of how you want to proceed. Here's a real easy way that I can pick up a time pod. And that's going to be a cool upgrade I get at the end. And then I'll also do this. So this guy's still going to get hit. He's still going to take some damage. I can look at how much damage. He'll take 1 damage. And you can see, again, that's very clearly telegraphed. I know exactly what's going to happen in every turn. But it gets increasingly more challenging to make those decisions, because eventually you're looking at like, okay, well, in order to save this building, one of my pilots is going to get killed. They're going to get hit. Their mech's going to go to 0 hit points, and that's going to be it. Is that worth it? Okay,
so the pilot, when the mech is destroyed, the pilot is gone as well.
What happens is the mech gets disabled for the rest of the battle. The pilot is permanently killed. And then the mech comes back in the next battle.
Okay.
But with just an AI pilot.
Okay.
Unless I've got another pilot who I can load up into that situation.
Right. So I see you've got these objectives here. Is it possible you've got 3 turns remaining?
Yeah.
Can you play to a draw, or do you have to fulfill those objectives within the remaining turns?
I have to have the objectives be true when that victory happens.
Okay.
So if the grid goes down to 0 before the end of 3 turns, it's game over.
Okay.
if I get to 3 and the grid is still up, if I get to 3 turns and the grid is still up, then whether I've completed these things or not, I will, the match will end.
Okay.
Right? So, like, this guy's in a tough spot. He's going to get hit no matter what because he's webbed. And so I could try to find some way to knock this guy out of place.
Yeah, could you, like, drop the artillery kind of above one square?
I could.
To push everyone away, kind of?
On the bright side, this particular mech can do enough damage that I'm just going to kill him outright.
Okay.
Is that the volatile Vec, though?
It is.
But
and
you
so
don't-
that's a choice.
Yeah, you don't want to let him die. 'Cause
That's why it's a tough spot, right?
Right.
So ultimately, I might just choose to let him take the hit,
But you didn't.
but I didn't. And so now we lose that.
Right. Now, what kind of rewards are you missing out on by doing that?
So after the round is over, these battles can happen really fast, right? The thing that happens after that is that you go back to the island, and depending on the different objectives that you completed, with the little lightning bolt, I move up my power grid. It's like getting 1 overall hit point back.
Okay.
The stars are going to get me things that after I've completed the whole island, I can spend those resources.
Okay.
So you're constantly kind of tracking within your session, within your playthrough, a system of rewards.
Okay.
And so that's fun. On the other hand, you're also constantly working towards these broader goals, these achievements that are going to allow you to progress through the overall game. And that's where it starts to get more like FTL. Like that game, you're going to play through this game many times.
Okay.
On this new account right now, we only have these 3 mechs, these starter mechs that we're going to be using. And they're great options. It's not like they're a bad option, but they're just one way to play the game. And each one of the other mechs offers an entirely different way to play the game. Now you can see right now already, because I've been like talking and not paying attention, the grid's already in bad shape. So if I take 1 more hit point of damage to the buildings,
Dunzo.
we're all done, right?
Yep.
So let's see if we can actually survive for these next 2 turns without totally dying.
I have faith in you.
Well, we'll see. So we want to push this guy out of the way.
Now, Leo, you can't see this very well, but Miller's entered what we call beast mode.
I
we'll
can
push
see his
this
aura
guy.
from here.
It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, he's pretty intense.
So we're going to move this guy so that he can't hit that building. This guy is probably in trouble, but we'll still have him do some damage here. The thing that I especially like about that broader FTL structure is the idea that the subsequent playthroughs that you have are really compelling and interesting to follow, right? You have these. Oh, now we're in trouble. What are we gonna do?
Uh-oh.
What are we gonna do? You have the different mechs that you get completely change the way that you approach combat. There's one mech, not to spoil too much, but there's one mech squad that's just all about fire. So you don't do a lot of direct damage, but you do lots of things that start something on fire, and then over time they take damage. There's another squad that has a mech that's like an electricity whip, right? And when you use that whip, you can chain it through buildings to connect this long sequence of damage dealing. And that is really exciting to go through the game and have these new situations that you can confront. So we managed to finish that mission, but I have one of my guys is straight up dead. That mech will come back, but
That Ralph is not coming back.
but Ralph is not coming back. But I can look. First of all, I got a pod. So I got a reactor core. So this is a good example of being able to show what happens. So I've got my reactor cores up here. This will let me upgrade my mechs. And if I finish this island, I'd be able to use these to get all sorts of fun stuff.
Can you show us like some of the upgrade stuff?
So here we've got, I can install this here.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, lost a lot of health in that fight. So we can actually install this and give him more health. Alternately, we'd have him get more moves. Eventually, I've got another weapon, and that would be another way that we progress this mech.
Is it a kick? You can tell us if it is.
Is it a kick?
Yeah.
It can be all sorts of stuff, actually.
Oh.
You can get all kinds of weapons that go there.
All right.
Each of the different mechs has different abilities. They're each different classes. And at the end of every island, there's a kind of boss.
Right.
Especially hard fight. And then after that, it pans back out and you go to a different island. And on the different islands, it has different backdrops and that kind of stuff.
Are the islands kind of randomly generated shape-wise, or is it like you're always going to start here?
The islands are pretty much consistent with what you're going to find there, but like the different battles are procedurally generated.
Okay.
So let's actually abandon this timeline real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing, guys.
And I wanted to show you just kind of what you can expect on that broader progression loop.
Oh, and you get to pick one pilot to continue your next timeline. So you like that guy.
We like this guy. He's pretty crazy looking.
Yep.
So this is what you see at the start of the game. Again, this is a fresh playthrough.
Right.
So we don't have a lot of stuff, but eventually you're unlocking different colors for your mechs. There are 10 entirely unique mech squads. You can also customize your squad and pull mechs from any of the unlocked groups.
Okay.
You can take a random squad. Each of these is like a totally different way to play the game.
Random squad seems fun.
You also unlock new time travelers. And you can, importantly, for people who've played FTL, you know that difficulty is a major factor in this game. I actually think playing on easy for the first couple playthroughs is a really smart idea, because you actually can unlock a lot of the mechs and start to get familiar with the way that the game works before you move up to normal, where I think it's an appropriate challenge where you're constantly feeling tested. In order to get these new mech squads, you're actively pursuing these different achievements, right? So with the current squad that I have, I can get achievements for this stuff. So right? Drown three enemies in water, complete the first corporate island, that kind of stuff. But there's all these other achievements that I can also chase, all of which are going to get me coins that can let me get more squads. As I unlock the additional squads, those will also have individual achievements to complete.
It seems like those victories, the global ones, obviously those are like a more long-term multiple playthrough thing that you're going after.
Exactly. Big picture here is that this game does what FTL did right in terms of a rogue-lite progression that is really compelling to check out. But the gameplay flow, I think, is a lot more engaging. I actually like this game better than FTL. And I love FTL. But I like the grid-based tactics here. I like the puzzle solving that happens on each turn. It just makes for this very compelling loop that's very intriguing to, you do one playthrough in a couple hours, you finish it, sometimes in less than a couple hours. If you're really flipping through those actions, you can finish it in less than an hour, right? After you complete 2 of these islands here, you get to go do the final battle, and the final battle scales to your current level of progression.
Okay.
Which is great, especially, again, if you've played FTL, you know that last boss fight was kind of a disaster. Like, there were only a few ways that you could solve for it. Here, it's much more friendly to get to that last boss battle and loop back to the beginning and feel like, yeah, it was hard, maybe I won, maybe I lost, but I'm going to go back and do it again. If you want to, you can do all 4 islands before you confront the final battle. And at that point, it's not like it's going to be way easier or way harder. Right. It's just scaled to your current level. Everything about the game just plays with such ease and such elegance that it's very easy to just get caught into that loop of like, you know what, this is just, I thought I was going to play this for half an hour and this was my weekend. It's that kind of a game.
So obviously you're still working on your score, but if I had to It's fun, right?
It's real fun.
There you
This
go.
game's going to score well for me. I think people are going to be surprised. It's one of those games that at first glance, it's like, oh, I've seen grid-based tactics games before.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, it's kind of got that like old school classic pixel graphic thing.
Yep.
It doesn't immediately cry out about its sophistication.
Okay.
But man, let me tell you, this is a game of significant depth. And there's a lot of fun to be had in learning all the different mechs, learning how they all interact with one another, learning the different weapons, learning how you can use different squads to do interesting things at any one time. All the different objectives that come up in the procedural generation of a given playthrough.
Yep.
Right? And the AI is, even though it's doing things that are very logical and you can always kind of predict what it's going to do, the AI does really compelling things and sets up very interesting turns that force you to kind of pause and be like, oh man, I just don't know how I can get out of this situation. And yet, if you pause and you kind of look at it and you think, okay, if I push here and then I move this guy here and then my third guy does a push that moves this unit here, then at the end of the turn, everything's going to be okay. Just for this one turn, I'm avoiding disaster, right?
Nice.
And that's a lot of fun.
When is this coming out, and what is it coming out on, Matt Miller?
This game's only out on PC initially.
Okay. And when?
On the 27th.
All right.
So, very, very shortly,
Very shortly.
for when we are going to post this.
All right.
This looks really good.
Looks really good.
I think
excited
people
for
are
this.
going to like it.
Excellent. Well, Matt Miller, thank you for sharing all your thoughts on the game. It looks interesting. Leo, are you going to play this thing?
Absolutely.
All right, you heard it here first. Leo's going to play this thing.
It's extremely up my alley.
All right. Well, thanks for having an open mind and an open alley, Leo Vader. And
Always.
thank you for watching. Bye.